Hmm. Okay, jumping back into it. Let's see. I should probably notify some people. Okay. Favorite country go? Let's see. If I had to pick a favorite country, mm, uh, hmm, that's a hard question. Do I count Australia as a continent or a country? Well, let's just say Japan. That's easy enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. This is the first time we've actually seen the exterior of the where Isabella and Becca live. I have issues and complaints about every place and everywhere, so it's kind of hard to pick a favorite place. I'm an American, and I don't really like a lot of how things are run here. Better than Japan. What did you have in mind? Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. Ah, at least you have the patriotism. I'm not a patriot. I'm not very patriotic, and that's honestly the only reason why I would never compare the U.S. as my favorite. After going through a bout of sickness last week, does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking up earlier than usual because of it. Okay, that's a news report. Is this about... Is this the day that Rose is found dead? I can't remember. Still no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'd take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper. Oh, this is afterwards. Wow, we skipped ahead far. I don't think we have a lack of fascism here. I've assumed that she'd take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour, she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
Most people. Eh, it depends on if you're going off of the actual definition of a fascist state or the definition of fascism as a tendency. The habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her siblings for school. Oh, I just remember when I was growing up and I think Tracy, it was like crazy that school classes would start at like 6 to 6:30. I don't think I could ever go back to that. I mean, I can get up at 5 semi regularly, and at one point when I was working for Safeway, I had shifts that started at 3 a.m. and I would have to wake up at 1:30 just to be able to get ready and make it to work on time for those shifts. But it's not something that I would regularly want to do. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We weren't well off, but so far, I've lived a relatively easy life. Yeah, that is the one benefit that the United States has. It's not a monocultured society, but out of all of the monocultured societies, it's definitely not my favorite. We don't have a fascist society, but we do have fascism here. I didn't have to think about its bills or food the next day, or paying for any of my siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting my six fathers. Yeah, Isabella's like life sucks. She's from was Indonesia or the Philippines? I've forgotten. Isabella was from Philippines. All I have to worry about are my grades, and if mom and dad's approval, and what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes it's ugly and rears at the most inopportune moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Oh, that's right, she gets invited to the housewarming parties. We ran into her when we were playing Asana. Eh, that's the right sigil. Whoever sent this spent silly money on the envelope alone, verging on ridiculous even. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose when she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing hand against the crisp surface will be enough for me to put a crease in it. Be a terrible sight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it really isn't the first time I've received one. Most of the time, it's not even from me. So who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written on it in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Mr. Alstair and Alyssa Gales. Their years in the academy naturally brought with it various connections. People from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off much of personal vibe. Oh, my phone's blowing up in the background. Forgot to turn that off. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they in turn treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad are proud of. How does she pronounce that? Rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'd remember that they have a daughter here. The real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provided for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give it back. Even if it's a small thing like letting them know they got another mail waiting for them. Phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum, her voice was warm as I remember.
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Her da. So they do say da. I've heard mum and pa, but never mum and da.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though.
When you mess up or roll your ankle or break a bone when you're at an advanced age, it's like really horrible. My grandmother ended up having surgery done on her leg at one point, and she was like just out of it for like what felt like a long time. It was only like about a month, but those weeks felt very, very long for her.
Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it. But I put down the idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Yep.
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah blah.
Becca Manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Raise your glasses, give cheers and good times. You are cordially invited to the Wrights housewarming party, October 28th, 2016, Friday. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, onwards. Ermengarde Mansion. Ugh.
Sorry.
I was responsible for a coworker rolling his ankle at Safeway once. I still feel bad about that due to a grease leak.
You are cordially. It's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at a moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it. Recently. Or when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother communicating it to. Committing it to memory. Ugh. There are a lot of Hanas in the world. Who knows? I have a cousin named Hana, but she goes by Hannah.
Hannah. Hannah.
Hana Wright.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Things are going tough for her right now because she's pregnant. She's getting emotional. Her husband is cheating on her. And also, there are ghosts trying to murder her face. Makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family. Ugh. That feels bad. That always feels bad. I don't know what I'd be like if I hadn't seen my family in years. If there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Dad are still pretty busy with their respective careers. Yeah, they're professors, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Oops, I clicked out of the tab. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. So yeah, the way I accidentally caused someone to have an accident was we had to empty the fryers, I think like twice a week. And what we were supposed to do with the old used canola fryer oil is there was like a 60-gallon drum in one of the freezers that we were supposed to dump it all in, and then I think that got thrown out at a certain point in time. I don't know if I'm even allowed to be talking about this, but this was years ago at this point, so I'm assuming whatever, what's the term, confidentiality agreements I've signed or have expired, if I even signed any. Yeah, and apparently that barrel leaked and made a pool of grease that caused someone to slip because it made the floor slippery. Just bad spot of luck.
Evans?
Oh, we've already named the place specifically. We might be in trouble. This is pure documentation. This will be used against me in a court of law. But accidents happen, and people talk about their work all the time.
Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Really? They're that close in age? Oh yeah, Becca's like 31.
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But, they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
Damn, her parents are like super popular.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
The 28th.
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around.
Get a wheelchair.
I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
That's fair.
I could go in your place.
Because you got a point there, Matt. I never did give the location. Real question is, should I give the location? To be fair, everyone that I worked there, was always real nice to me, so I don't really want to out them. But you already know the place. I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. Did I accidentally click skip something? I could go in your place. Okay. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, it's that disappointed note in Mom's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't
Are
matter.
you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
That's right, she's a school teacher, but it's in the afternoon.
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule.
Schedule.
It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Oh, that's why he ends up there.
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties.
But you aren't aware that he's investigating the rights and will absolutely say yes.
But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Timeline. Where is Isabella doing on the 28th? Da-da-da. Okay, so McCulloch gets locked in a cell, the party happens. Yeah, we don't know what happens to Isabella on the 28th. Do we have anything? Okay, so Isabella is alive on the 29th. Interesting. And we have nothing from beyond the 30th.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the 2 of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
How old is she now? "29 years old." Yeah, I totally remember this chick that I met once 17 years ago. This too, I can't recall. No shit. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked for a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere or at least recognized her name. As it is, only a few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. Mandy. To some extent. Mom must have sensed the confusion and she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having two daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them.
Seems pretty common.
Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Oh yeah, we got that 12-month sub badge now. Got the hat stack.
Will do. You bye. Tell Dar to be careful next time.
She chuckles. A hearty one, tender as always, light on my ears. She may have been a stern teacher, but this is part of her that I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from many years ago. Ooh, are we flashing back? When life and responsibilities were accompanied by an adulthood and things far from our minds. We're flashing back. Oh no, we're not flashing back. Dang it. If given the chance, I'd like to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. Some people are just good about that. I tend to have the ability to just bounce back from anything if I feel like I need to, but even I can get worn down to the point where I just seem like I'm a depressed person droning on. With the whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Sure you can. Teachers do it all the time. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day awaits. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for a day and my car keys in hand. Yeah, I don't think you should be driving. You don't want ghosts appearing in the back seat again. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone keeps to themselves, except for the fact that you bothered Isabella and you became friends over the last 5 years. No useless platitudes in the morning, no need to wear a smile on your face. At least the other people are lest the other people are nosy enough to ask. There we go. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop and a frown gradually forms on my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before the open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direst of circumstances. Though the last part of what might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella, the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary Ashton and I, that has been the case. I'd say if you've known someone for 5 years, especially if you're just like the new girl in town, and latching on to the first people that show you kindness and then developing a friendship early on is probably for the best. And then once you've been friends for 5 years, I wouldn't compare that. Because if a friendship lasts longer than a year, you probably are in for a longer haul than you would give credit for. If you've been friends for 5 years, that's longer than most people in high school stay friends. Anyway, we should probably move on. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training and being brief. I've given her the space last night in I'd given her the space last night in deference. Does that sentence make sense? I'm not sure. But perhaps today might be in proper time to check in on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until after I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
Okay, so you talk first, then knock. Interesting. No answer. After a second, I finally knock lightly so I don't disturb her in case she's sleeping and merely left the telly running last night. No, we heard the telly turn on. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today? Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Knock, knock, knocking on Isabella's door. Then I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. It's a rose. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then, after all. I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning it away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Watch the door not even be locked. Without waiting for her to answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit is still a mess. Oh yeah, is that another murder victim? Instant noodle cups on the table, pile of clothes on one side, papers strewn about everywhere, an unkempt bed, among other things. This much is a given. Will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with the place in this state. I mean, I have papers on the floor and books lying about, but that's because I don't have a bookshelf or anywhere to do them, so I haven't unpacked most of my books. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual, but she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. Doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, and it can only mean that she hasn't been here since last night. Perhaps even since the morning after Miss Cooper's death. Either idea doesn't sit well with me. What with the news I've been hearing lately. Is this the same day that so this is probably the day after she went into work and then stopped at Zach's on the way home then. Did she leave the TV on when she left for work that day? Yeah, that sounds par for the course for you, Matt. Either idea doesn't sit well with me, what with the news being on hearing lately.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims.
All the victims? Employees, plural? What?
Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death.
That's right. Miss Cooper was covering for all the other employees that stopped coming into work for some reason. And this is basically just now confirming that they were all murdered. And I bet it was the people that went missing that Cooper mentioned earlier on in the story that went missing while working on the mansion. So it's either there is most definitely a supernatural element. That much is confirmed already. But there might also be a murderer that's doing something related to the real estate market.
Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. It rings for a good minute, sound a comfort in itself. But when another minute rolls by without her answering, well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bounce of temper, maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when speaking. You look pretty panicked when you almost hit that car. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long, though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That always says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person that I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings. Oh, say we're on the 25th. Okay. Rebecca Gales received a housewarming invitation addressed to her parents that morning. After informing them about it, she checked Isabella's apartment and was shocked to find that she hadn't come home last night. Okay. So we're on Tuesday. Tuesday. Which is tomorrow, if you are watching this in recording form, because this is being recorded on Monday night.
Becca? Christ, what time is it?
It's a little bit before school starts, so it's not that early.
What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call this early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Then you shouldn't have opened with a joke.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Oh my god, she gets distracted so easily.
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting hard surface, and a string of rather colorful curses from him. Oh, he stubbed his toe on something. What was that? The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly the next few days if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
We still don't know exactly what his job is. He apparently works for some police department. We don't really know the full extent of his job.
And not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
Also, it's early in the morning.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
I'm checking with him next.
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
Well, at least we know that he's going to where Isabella is. He hangs up before I can protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension is gone from my shoulders, and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks, and I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. At the same time, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging at me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early. But for now, relying on the latter for this is not the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. True to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Wow,
She
that
could
was
have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
good one, Ash. It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time. Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
And he does do that.
That's...
He is a child. So Ashton is also 3 years older than Isabella. Which means we can infer that him and Becca are the same age, which means Ashton is 29. He's barely older than I am.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
You should probably get some sleep and do that later.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put it in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
He doesn't know. That's why he's going there to find out.
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
Sounds like a lie if I've ever heard one. The sort where he omits things so people won't fret. I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? Yeah, I guess it's caring. I'm never a big fan of lying, but omitting information to not hurt people's feelings or put their minds at ease, I'm generally okay with. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after all the trouble he went through with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. Here we go, decision time. Neat. We made the right choice. Probably. I recognize concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off of his hands, it would only be selfish of me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. Yeah, you do have stuff to do. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness, so he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use...
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough.
Oh, that's the place with the fish ice cream cones, right?
On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
Like the old days when wayward 26-year-old... You think 3 years ago is the old days? Is at the bottom of the list of things we need to worry about. This is how we find common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things. We may see things the way others do. Did it mean to say we may not see things the way others do? Oh, we may not. Oh, we may not see things the way the other does. That's what they're trying to get at. Now I get it. But the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. My dyslexia is acting up. 9 months ago was the old days. Oh, you're right, Matt. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him, at least I can offer his thanks.
Really? Thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise.
I don't know about you, but for me, the old days were when I was half my age. When I weighed 70 less pounds and could run a mile in 6.5 minutes. Those were the old days to me.
I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit, the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that. So many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them all out in the open, because like this, I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait to go about my day and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet, now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. Tuesday, we're skipping ahead. The rest of the day slips away in a blur. Ah, my favorite way for the day to slip away. Favorite way for the day to slip away. Ah, tongue twister. Despite my best efforts in getting this morning's events from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems, I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. She sold it like not a few days ago. What are you talking, weeks? Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse that when I think it's even worse than when it was put back up in the market. Now there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters, or simply because of the atmosphere around this time of the year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. Now, if I remember correctly in the timeline, so we're here on the 25th, party's on the 28th, and during the party she found this recorder of some kids from her school exploring the mansion, and they referenced this girl's brother, who we met and saw alive the next day. So, his friends are dead. Probably. Very likely. At least then I can be sure people will forget about it in the flavor of another set of the holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. I hope you didn't forget, the school day is about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
You always hear stuff. I'm not sure if half of them's even real.
Ah, now those are kids.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
Oh, they're dead. Oh, they super dead.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again.
Well, I'm glad I just went through all that effort of just reiterating for the audience everything that we learned about the 3 kids that were probably people Rowan knew, and only for the game to immediately just throw that in our face. Thanks, game. You know exactly how to make sure we don't forget stuff.
No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day.
And that's correct. We won't get any more news about them until the 28th. But we're on the 25th, so...
Scary shit, man.
Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
How old are the kids in this school again?
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
Their talk immediately halts when I look up, all of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper onto this nonsense is needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, but reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes of it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
Now what? At the noise, the whole lot of them grows silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If it's that student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk. Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busty chatter and footfalls. An everyday cycle in itself. For the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there are for there to be. My ears focusing on whatever sounds there are or will be. Searching for that distinct clanging of metal. Someone got shoved in a locker. That's my guess. Good minute passes, and for a portion of it, only my steps echo through the halls. And another. I'm about to turn around when the sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but it grows louder after each interval. With the hallway devoid of people, I don't put a stop to it. And if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes a noise annoyingly disruptive now that I'm facing it. Like someone pounding on the metal door from the inside. Other kids heard it. Other people heard it. There's people around. If you scream, help will arrive. I'm opening this locker. I don't care. Like someone's pounding on a metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try to get a glimpse through the horizontal slats for whatever's causing. But in this light, darkness greets me in another round of clanging. Louder than the previous one. Just open it. More desperate. I've heard stories before from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice, although personally I've never encountered one myself. I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet.
If this
But-
is another kid some other student stuffed in a locker...
With a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly with a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle and... at once, it stops, immediately replaced with the muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second, another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and pull out my mobile. So you're not going to open it. Why? Ashton's voice greets me from another end of the line, oddly cheerful in the light of this morning's matters. Or maybe it's because I'm expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know that could be the reason for that tone. Sweets, or he's got a good lead in his case. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume the former, since lately that case is all that's running inside his head. If there's ever a third one, I've never heard of it yet. It can only be one of the two. Sacrament before I end the call. I forget, did the kiss happen in this part? I don't remember. Or is that tomorrow? Maybe it happened today?
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Yeah, we're being so... What's the term? Passé about that?
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
You're just now bringing that up. The word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago, on the way home from our little treat after she sold the mansion. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie, it scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed. That's right, well, that's when she saw the ghost in the window.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get.
You guys really need to get on the same information level.
But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned tonight as thanks.
Actually, he went and got that with Isabel, if I remember.
Just as thanks for all the trouble I've caused today.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause before he cuts the call on from his end, and once again I'm alone with my thoughts. Rather than answers, all I got from it are questions. More of them. One on top of the other, as if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. But that's a problem I'll tackle later. Right now I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping if the slightly open door and smothered laughter from the inside is an indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats.
Is that your boyfriend, Miss Gales?
Oh my god. That is like bad voice acting, but it's intentionally bad, and I love it.
None of your business.
Blushing!
He totally is.
He totally is. Quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers sometimes, boisterous as they all are. I thought this was a middle school. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to the classroom, and with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. It hasn't made a sound
Must be
since...
the wind.
Must be the wind! That's that. Must be the wind. Then, without another look, I leave it alone. Fuck me. Jesus, that scared me. Oh, my heart skipped a beat. I didn't expect this to cut back to it. Oh, I was not prepared for that. Worried about her friend's behavior, Rebecca informed Ashton about Isabel's disappearance. It turned out that she spent the night at Zachary's and Ashton offered to pick her up. Rebecca went to school after she had a strange encounter in the hall. What? In the hall what? With one of the student lockers. No, we didn't have an incident with the locker. Nothing happened. Did you guys see anything? Because I didn't see anything. All in all, the entire school day ends without a hitch. Yeah, she's definitely sassy. Could have gone better, mind you. Could have gone better, mind you. But with exams nearing, getting out of work before the sun has set, looks as though it's a far off dream for now. At least until they're over. Then we have the holidays to look forward to. Front row, third from the door. That's awfully specific, Matt. Did you go to this school? There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm hoping for... here's my theory. Those 3 lockers belong to the 3 missing kids. That's my theory. All I'm hoping for is this will continue until the whole day ends. There's still that promise I made to Ashton. And frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to them, what makes them think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? No, but as much as it sounds sexist, people tend to open up more to people of the same gender. Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if only because I'm also worried about her. If both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get the story out of her, here's to hoping it's not going to do with the letter again. Oh, here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with the letter again. Well, what do we have for her, Johnny? I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is... It's not been more than a week. She found the letter on Friday. It's Tuesday. It's not even been 5 days. Ah, one of those kids. Yeah, I can understand that. Meanwhile, I'm just going to stand here and push my glasses slightly up. It's bound to get tiring at one point. Seriously, I merely don't want this to end with another argument. God willing, the cafe's special will help smoothen things out. After all, it's always been food with her. Who can blame her? I mentioned a little bit earlier in the stream that I have gained 70 pounds since I was in what I claim to be my prime. Got a hefty gut in the last couple of years in particular. Where was I going with this? Oh yes, food. I like food. It is probably my 3rd favorite hobby. Just right behind sleeping and talking. Those are my big 3. The order is subject to change. Or money. But mostly food. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely ever go during the evenings. It's simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes. Ooh. And there really isn't much of a reason to eat out lately. What with the life going on a busy streak. Existing and existential dread on my list of hobbies. Probably towards the bottom. I don't like existing. I would rather be non-existent. I would rather not exist, because then I don't have to worry about existing.
Lucky there isn't one tonight.
Only a few people are idling around on the counter. 4 of them, in fact. A woman in her 60s and a teenager busy with his phone. Both are just waiting to be served their orders. It's all connected. Everything's getting worse. The other two, a posh-looking man and child, who I immediately recognized as Kylie, appear to have not yet picked anything they want. For some reason, my stare lingers at the guy. Though dressed relatively well and looks harmless, I haven't seen him around these parts before. Yes, this kid is apparently the nephew, the niece, Kylie, that is really nice to him, that they get along with, is this kid. It's all connected now. And I'm surprised that we didn't make that connection when we first met her. Probably because I didn't remember the name of his niece. Someone new in the neighborhood, perhaps? Even so, there's something familiar in him. It feels like I've seen him somewhere before. That also begs the question of why Kylie is with him. Of course, the girl easily takes a liking to anyone who buys her sweets, so it's both a bit worrisome and unsurprising. The blonde bloke doesn't look particularly thrilled with the company, though. I tear my eyes away from them soon enough once the guy at the counter appears to be ready to take my order. That, and I'd also hate to be accused of ogling strangers.
2, evening special, takeout.
He's already punching the order before I even finish. Saying my order out loud is really more of formality's sake and made out of habit. He's known Isabella and I long enough that if I were ever to drop by here, he already knows that it's always because I'm buying dinner for the two of us. That's a certain level of familiarity that I remember having with customers when I worked at a deli. And it's like, this guy comes in every night at 6. He wants this, this, and this. And it's the kind of it's always nice to have a certain regular familiarity with people. What do psychologists call it? Propinquity? Something like that? Closeness from regular interference with one another? Something along those lines. It's really nice. I rarely visit here alone. Yeah. Whenever you work in customer service, you're bound to have those people that come in constantly. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it, but Isabella can sometimes be a bad influence. Gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order, while I fish for my wallet when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
You said you'll get me some bread pudding this time.
Yeah, well, darling, they said they ran out of it. Just pick another one so we can be on our way.
Their parfait doesn't look as cute as the one my mom bought me.
Parfait is just ice cream, sweetheart. It'll melt no matter how dainty it appears. In the end, it'll all look like an ugly puddle.
Again, everything he says, despite how unlikable of a character he is, I have to agree with him.
Now come on, just pick one. It could even be the most expensive one on that list. I don't give a shit.
Wow!
I don't care. Oh, what I would give for someone to buy you off my hands right now.
What? My whole attention instantly snaps back to them at their conversation. Jumping to conclusions isn't something I'm particularly fond of, especially when all I have are baseless assumptions, but you can't really trust a stranger these days. No one around the cafe seems to have noticed his words either. Very suspicious words. I still couldn't move. Yet... I still couldn't move yet. But my hand has already shifted from my wallet to the book I'm carrying. A hardbound textbook. It looks harmless, but its situation calls for it. It might be a good deadly way. You immediately jump to hitting a guy with a book. Wow. Might. I haven't gotten the chance to try it anywhere so far. Wait, is this the book that we got? Did we meet? No. Okay, we did meet her. So this is the book. Okay. Okay. So I was on the... We're still here. Okay. Today could be the day.
Promised.
Look, if you don't want a parfait, how about a Bonifay pie? I'm sure it'll taste just as good as any other bread pudding. I'll even buy you the entire tray. How does that sound?
That's not what you said before.
Well, sweetheart, adults change their minds sometimes.
You said if I come with you, you'll buy me a bread pudding, and I did, and now you won't keep your promise. I want to go home. I miss my mom.
No, darling, if I remember correctly, and I have a good memory, honey. What I said was, if you come quietly with me, I might buy you one. The quiet part didn't happen. Though now that I'm sober, I think this is a bad idea. And I should just ship you someplace else for that peace and quiet.
Oh, that's it. Oh, this is about to escalate extremely quickly. No hesitation. In a few paces, he's within my reach. Without warning, I'm slamming the flat area of a book against his skull. Ow! The guy's clearly hungover, and you just bash him in the back of the head with a textbook. Wow! There's a cry of pain, followed by him instantly crouching down, hands nursing the sore spot. Almost comically, if this were a different situation and the safety of a St. Coretti student isn't at stake, I'd probably feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him, but that's only because I have an excessive amount of empathy. I mean, has anyone seen how thick this book is? Yes.
Get behind me, Kylie.
Miss Pink!
It's amusing how fast her expression changes from the pouty one earlier to something of that of utter delight upon seeing me. But there's no time for any pleasantries, not even quick ones, because soon the man straightens, and I'm readying my favorite newfound weapon for another hit. Except this time, he's ready. And before I can land another one, his hand shoots up to catch my wrist with a firm hold. Nice. And the look on his face.
Bloody hell, woman, what's your problem?
Kidnapper. To say he's pissed would be a complete understatement. Had I been the weak-willed sort, I'd probably cower under his sharp gaze. But that simply isn't how I roll. If he thinks he can scare me and do as he pleases here, just because I'm a woman or whatever his reasons may be, he's got another thing coming. Judas Priest music playing. So instead, I return it to him the same intensity. Just two angry people, angrying at each other. Grrr. I return it to him with the same intensity, with the same venom.
What's my problem? You're the one who has a problem here. Rotten bowbags like you don't deserve the freedom to run this town. What are you doing to this girl?
And why is that any of your business, pray tell?
Oh, it's my business if I make it to be. Now, release me or I'll call the police.
Oh, you think that scares me, Daisy?
I love how he has nicknames for everybody.
I have a name, you sleazy douchebag.
Oof. Language in front of the child, please.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, now he's sleazy douche. His grip on my hand only tightens when I attempt to shake it off. His tone may be dripping with anger. Oh, this is the history book. Neat. His tone may be dripping with anger and sarcasm, but the gleam in his eyes says it all. He's getting a kick out of this. Riling people up, getting on their nerves, invading their personal space. He knows exactly what and which buttons to push. The nerve of this person. The nerve of this arsehole. If he thinks I'm going to give in to his goading, please, he may as well just kiss my sorry behind. Hit him where it hurts. Oh, I didn't expect to have a choice here.
Mister, You have until the count of 5 to let me go and step out of my personal space.
A fair warning. Got the popcorn ready too now. Oh, this is good. Fairer than any I can offer. For people of his kind, and I'm already being considerate. Yeah, I don't expect these two to get along. I don't care. Hell, this arsehole doesn't even deserve a warning. If he doesn't listen, well, he's as much responsible for what will happen next as anyone.
Or else what? Such vulgar words coming out of that pretty mouth. A gorgeous flower like you shouldn't even be saying.
Don't say I didn't warn you, Bowbag.
Love that intensity, Daisy. FYI, I like feisty in a woman. It gives them this certain charm. Why don't you?
5.
Second of silence. Then, without any preamble, my leg moves in one fluid motion, delivers a swift and powerful, well-placed kick to his nether regions. Oh, what was that achievement we just got? Nuts and bolts. Nice. Teach the pompous bastard a lesson he'll never forget. Needless to say, the effect is instantaneously. He yelps abruptly and drops his hold on me, and kneels over, howling from the pain. Nice! That's the kind of karma we've been hoping Luke was going to get this whole game, and I'm glad someone gave it to him. I can see tears forming at the corners of his eyes, too, though the mere sight of it prompts not an ounce of remorse from me. I would have been gentler if he wasn't such a dirty... if he isn't such a dirty little prick with an ego as big as his head. Too bad. Whether this obliterates any chance of him ever procreating remains to be known. But part of me is already praying that he doesn't breed after this. Joke's on you, he has already sired a child. We have no need of more of him in this world.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass!
Why, this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Harassment.
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here,
You despicable! Whatever you're assuming I am, I'll have you know it's all in your head. None of it's true.
He's well, except for the asshole part. He is an asshole.
You best have that pretty brain of yours checked before that gets worse. What is wrong with you? Is this the face of someone who'd do anything suspicious?
You don't want me to answer that.
Oh? You don't think a stranger luring an innocent child with promises of sweets before whisking them away from their parents doesn't warrant any suspicion? You have a very funny definition of suspicious, asshole. Maybe you're the one who should have that head of yours checked.
The kid asked me to buy her sweets. You're the one who's suspicious here.
Surprisingly, I don't find people that walk up to people and clock them in the head with a book as suspicious. I wouldn't call it normal, but I wouldn't call it suspicious.
I'll have you know, I have a wife!
That much at least appears to have a sliver of truth to it. He even makes a show of brandishing his left hand in my face with so much flourish. Sure enough, a wedding ring. Which earns an unimpressed glare from me. Immediately, a small part of me starts to feel sorry for whatever poor woman married this sod. I don't understand why he has to bring her up either, as if the mention of her alone will magically present a solution to this problem. She must truly be a remarkable woman if she can handle this dirtbag.
And even my wife of all people in this bloody city, has never, I'm telling you, accused me of such a scandalous thing! You crazy woman!
Oh, you wait till Friday.
Married or not, you're still a sleaze. Honestly, I feel...
Miss Pink, why are you fighting with my Tio?
Finally, the truth comes out. Whatever words are still left to be said there dies on my tongue. The same thing goes for the sleaze. Beside us stands Kylie, gawking at us with the same curious stare that she often brings with her. She's got a huge head. I don't know if I'm going to ever have an opportunity to work that into conversation, but she has a huge head. A precious child through and through. She doesn't say anything further. Her gaze simply moves between us, eyeing us both carefully, clearly, and anticipating an answer. From my experience, when it gets like this with children of her age, it's a sure sign they won't leave you until you're given them the answer that they're satisfied with. Lying won't do either. It has dissolved into a shouting match, for heaven's sake. And did she just say Tio? Something falls straight into the pit of my stomach at that. Yeah, Tio is Spanish for uncle. And I think it might be Italian too, actually. But my tongue is gentle when I finally address her, void of any apprehension and what might be the first hints of embarrassment. I pointedly ignore the latter. It can very well just be the hunger.
Kylie, sweetie, do you know this oaf?
Yeah, he's Tio Luke.
Right at that moment, my brain stops. You can hear the hamster wheel going, and then just stopping. It fell off the wheel. Every line of thought, every argument I still have against the man beside me dissipates in a haze. Amidst all of it, one memory gets triggered from a few days ago.
Tio? The one you mentioned before? The uncle? The guy Rowan wanted to impress? Or was that a dare? I'm sorry, I can't recall. Is it the one who promised he'll take Big Brother someplace cool?
Yeah, the one in the same. Don't you know who he is?
I sure as hell don't, darling. Because if I do, I wouldn't have let everything I said earlier come out of my mouth.
He's my Tio Luke. Gazillionaire extraordinaire, am I? No, the fairy godfather.
The fairy godfather. I love that.
He's your godfather.
He's your uncle and your godfather, apparently.
That's nice.
The one and only. Did I get that right, Tio?
More than right, sweetheart.
Sleazy douche. I love it when they switch these nicknames over, though. That's great.
I'm sure Miss Pink here understood everything you said quite perfectly.
And the smug grin is back. Whatever it is that landed at the bottom of my stomach prior has shot straight up into my face and stayed there. The heat from it slowly spreading my cheeks, coloring my face almost the same shade as my hair. If only the earth would swallow me whole, here and now. His eyes are on me. I can feel them jeering, mocking, and I can't even bring myself to look at him. What's in there? Amusement? I doubt it. He's probably having the time of his life right now. But I know, I can hear the sneer in his tone alone when he talks. He has that smug grin on him. We love smug grins. Which I may or may not punch off his face at present, just for the hell of it. But, damage control. Wow, that jumped up a lot. Though it pains me to apologize to a sleazebag like him, this was my mistake. With Kylie watching us close by, I don't want to set a bad example for her, do I? I'm surprised she grew up the child she is, if anything. She was raised by that ghost. You just don't know what that ghost lady... She's definitely talking to the ghost lady, I'm sure of it. If anything, I want to be the role model this man couldn't possibly become for her. What? I want to be the role model this man couldn't possibly become from her. You mean for her. Even if it means taking a few blows to my ego and stroking his insufferable one. A deep gulp of air and a short moment to swallow my self-respect, and then I'm facing him. The words are out of my mouth in a single breath.
I'm really, really sorry, sir.
The bigger person. Achievement unlocked.
I had no idea.
His smirk is impossible to miss. He's not making an effort to hide it, and even if the smile is so irritatingly present in his tone, I could slap it off him. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Now, it's an honest mistake, Daisy.
No, I really mean it. I actually thought you were... And then...
It's fine now. It probably happens quite a lot to a few people who look suspicious to you.
Ooh, I can feel the sneer.
Seems I'm one of them now. But don't lose sleep over it.
Don't lose sleep over it.
Do be careful with that book, though. A little more and you would have dislodged my poor brain off my head. What would I ever do if that happens?
Oh no! Did it leave a mark or anything?
Oh, now he's just bragging. Oh, this is just evil. See, it's moments like this that we love Luke for because it's hilarious.
If you want, we can have it checked. I'll handle the expenses if there's a need for it.
Now, what kind of man would I be if I let an attractive woman such as yourself do that? Why don't we just look at it this way? My forgiveness is coming from the utter goodness of my heart.
Oh, ah, it stings. Oh, that hurts. He's so evil. So full of himself. Exactly the kind of person I'll happily leave to die in a ditch somewhere.
Of course, sir. Why didn't I think of it that way?
I know, right?
It still says sleazy douche.
But even someone as capable as you is bound to have a few lapses. No harm done, Daisy. Let's move on from this.
How old is Kylie again? I don't remember.
Well, if you're going to put it like that, then I guess there's nothing left for us to talk about.
I figured as much.
Awkward. The whole exchange is nothing but awkward. Display of fake pleasantries. One that brings much agony to the very pride I've willingly held back a while ago. I might need to drink later so I can forget any of this ever happened. Who would have thought that the time would come when I'd meet someone tougher to handle than Isabella? Well, I was wondering when you would meet Luke. I didn't expect it to happen here in front of Kylie, but I'm glad it did. Miracles of miracles, I swear. Though to my surprise, he proffers me a hand shortly before they leave. For a shake, I realize after a long minute of staring at it, I accept it, albeit half-heartedly. What? But all the goodwill and a small gesture represents melts into thin air when he winks at me. Winks. The gall of this man. However, there's no moment to ponder about it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves at me over the hands, paper bag, as soon as I've paid. He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally, I return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, albeit from a person I barely know on a personal level, feels like reassurance despite bearing no promise of better days. This is one of the reasons why it's important in customer service to smile, because sometimes people just really need that smile. People have a lot of shit that they go through on a day-to-day basis. just as you who work in these crummy jobs that are day to day, 9 to 5, or oppressive companies with weird policies and no respect for their employees, not to call anyone out, but even if you hate your job, it's important to be kind and courteous to anyone you meet on the job, because that's just the kind of human decency that we have all afforded that we need to be giving to each other. It's just for the best. Be kind. Be kind. I feel like I should be going more with this, but I've lost my train of thought, so we're just going to jump right back into the text. Feels like a reassurance despite bearing no promise of better days. Yeah, let's go with that. That sentence basically sums up my point. Ooh, my neck. I take what little I can of it with me as I step out into the night. Whack! While laying up, it still disturbs me that I keep forgetting that the letter shows up there in the fold. While lining up to buy dinner, actually, does that show up there? No, it's there on every day. Okay. While lining up to buy dinner, Rebecca saw Kylie Suarez with a suspicious man. Assuming it was a kidnapping, Rebecca elected to take matters into her own hands, only to find out that the man was the girl's godfather, Luke Wright. An embarrassed Rebecca apologized afterwards. He left out the knee to the balls and the book to the head. That was a memorable scene, for sure. A cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe beyond the tall buildings and a blanket of stars spread out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it was someplace outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once at her mom's hometown, and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here at some time. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appreciated and excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton, though up until now we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this despite being told it's only half the experience. Yeah, you should never sacrifice your dignity. If your work's making you sacrifice your dignity, you need to find a new job. Meanwhile, I'm going to list off a bunch of buzzwords for my sponsor. I'm just kidding. Little things, stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times, you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching in my direction. Luckily, he didn't notice me. But the fleeting moment was as we pass each other by gives me a brief glance at a brief glimpse of the people he's with. Whoa. No, I haven't heard about Prime Gaming. Actually, I have heard about Prime Gaming. Yee. Kylie sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. Yay, she got her bread pudding. And beside him, it must be his wife. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that, a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. I have reached out to the universe and the universe has responded, saying, try again later? After having such an eventful day, anyone will think nothing will surprise me anymore. But here I am, standing on the top of the stairwell, watching an old scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind, first followed by confusion. Yep, Prime does a lot.
What is she doing there?
Although given what happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. She looks mad. What's important is Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway, just right in front of her room, with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick scan, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, it looks like a mess made by a third grader working on a crunch time. The landlady will have a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about it, in fact. But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself at present keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with intensity. Her brows are furrowed, her lips tight in line, both hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone to call someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call. Then after the last one ends, she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. She's doing the work of like 10 men. I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I reached our floor. After the 9th call, she still appears oblivious to it as when I've arrived. When she lets out a long sigh, I immediately take that as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once, her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse before speaking again.
Becca, you're late.
Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. Yet it doesn't reach her eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time. Just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something's happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've got to finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done. Thanks, Becca.
You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react. Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there.
I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise.
That has never bothered you before.
Huh.
Well, it bothers me now.
Oh, is help me written on the walls in blood? Why aren't you going into your apartment?
Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes, in a surefire indicator that this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again. It's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight at all costs. Still, I've made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps this all to herself, who knows what might happen?
Isabella, you can tell me.
Information is key. If people don't stay informed, progress can't be made. We got Zachary killed that one time because Ashton didn't properly tell Zach where he would be.
Is it about your family?
Slight movement of her lips, although a frown. It's reaction at the least. Getting
Rose?
there. She merely shakes her head. Just a little
Come
more.
on, I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly healthy.
Does it have something to do with work? Office?
If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. There it is. She shifts then, her fists clenching tight, teeth biting her lower lip, and there's fear. The look of terror in her. It is the last thing I expected to see out of everything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens them. When she finally voices it out of the words simply spill out of her mouth. One after another. All of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she has been keeping to herself, even if from the two most dependable people I know. The fact she chooses to tell me, this speaks a lot to
Becca,
me.
She was there again. Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's lurk load yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then... when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again!
Finally, the truth comes out.
She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me, Becca, she almost did. If she saw me under my table, I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
By the end, her hands are trembling, and her breathing comes out in rasping intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, let her sobs fill it instead. But even as her soft whimpers die down, minutes later, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. My exasperation over this whole matter, from my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, when she could do us all the favor and grow a backbone. Ugh, she's so cold. She may be young, but she's no longer that young. Actually, she's younger than me, isn't she? No, she's older than I am. It's about time to put an end to this. She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. And what if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid for her, for what kind of imagination will do to her, than what some imaginary monster could. But with the manner she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation in it, a hope and plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, then what am I supposed to say now? Be nice. Don't be such an ass. Man, Becca, you're really, really hard to like. As much as I want to set her straight, a reprimand isn't what she needs right now. With that pouty face she's giving me, I doubt it'll even end well if I push it. I know her. When she wants to be stubborn, she's stubborn. But there are moments when she can be acquiescing too. Times when she'll be more accepting of what I tell her, despite her inclination to disagree with it. That talk can wait. In the meantime, I'll be the ear that listens to her without judging her, without criticizing her despite my own my own opinions of it, not options.
You should have called me.
She stares at me like I've grown another head, and laughter slips out before I can stop
There?
myself.
I can't do that! What will you do? Hit her with a book? You'll be dead before that happens. And
I would like to see her hit the ghost with a book. No one has actually tried to take any offensive action towards the ghost, but I'm of the suspicious belief that we need to help the ghost in some way, and the ghost will move on, so to speak.
That isn't what I'm talking about. After you got out, you should have phoned me. You didn't have to go to Zachary's.
Zachary's was just on the way home. Just tell it to piss off. Now, we already tried that. It didn't work. The corners of her mouth curl up, a sheepish smile. By general definition, this is Isabella. Her smiles are never half-hearted. Never lacks her high spirits. In spite of this, I know everything's going to be okay. Somehow. After all, she's learned how to pick herself up long ago. Long before we met.
yeah, sorry. I don't even remember how I ended up in Zach's place. I was in a hurry to get out of the office, and it was already late. Besides, I don't really think you'll believe me if I wake you up over something like that.
That's beside the point. True or not, there are people who will always be concerned about you. There's Zachary, but he's the first person you went to, and you didn't tell him anything. You just slept there. There's Ashton too, and me. But how do you think I'll be able to explain to your aunt or your family if you suddenly disappeared? Think about that.
Right. I'll remember that next time.
Then she grins. I can't imagine there's much more going on in this story until we get to the next date advancement. So we'll probably go for another 30 minutes tops. Or we'll just go till the day ends. Playful and mischievous. Preamble to the old banter. Still not quite there. Still not quite her usual self. But with it, I know we're bound to get her back soon.
Mom.
I told you not to call me that.
I send an elbow into her side for added measure. But when laughter follows, the familiar gesture, none of it is unexpected. This is what's comfortable. This is how we found an equal ground despite our stark differences. So for the moment, I accept things as they are. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet in this moment, as she fiddles with the edge of another paper near her, she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger on her. It feels strangely fitting. As if this is where everything's supposed to lead, if we were allowed it long ago. Seconds later, the moment is broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging some little
How
piece.
many times have I told you girls not to loiter around the hallway? It's noisy. Some people here are trying to sleep.
Sorry, Mom.
Quiet down or go do your talking inside. I'm pinning a memo to your door the next time this happens. Millennials.
That's right. Millennials can be 35 right now. Because millennials were labeled at a certain point. Was it 1985 to 2000 if you were born? Something like that?
Sorry, we won't do it again.
You'd better.
The door closes and Isabella starts gathering in the mess she's made, carefully stacking them all in her arm. At a loss for what to do, I help her pick them. And for the first time, I get a closer look at it. Oh, I can't read that. That font is too tiny. Completely unintentional, of course, but it catches my attention nevertheless. And a confused frown makes its way to my face. Why is she looking through this? I look to her for an explanation, but she merely ignores the question in my eyes, takes the paper off my hands, and finishes cleaning up. 1985, I think that they have lessened the window for millennials, but yeah, I think it was until 2000. Because that's when we call them whatever the Gen Z babies or whatever the current is. It's all advertising, marketing, labeling, bullcrap. None of it's real. There's no such thing as generations. It's just labels that advertisers use to market to certain demographics. You can completely ignore them. Actually, you could probably Google it on YouTube, but Adam Conover actually has a pretty lengthy video that he did. I think it's almost like a TED Talk, but not a TED Talk, where he explains how there's the labeling that we use for generations is nothing. They're just coined terms that advertising firms use for marketing purposes. If you could coin the term for the next generation, you could end up making bank because it'll get used as a demographic for targeting, and probably if you can coin these terms, it's really profitable apparently. I don't know all the finer details, but it just makes me angry that, and I never really liked advertising all that much, but the methods that are used in advertising are kind of hostile, in my opinion. A little intrusive. The last paper she puts on top is a letter. The one she supposedly found in the mansion, and what's probably the root cause of this odd behavior. I shoot her a questioning look for that too, but all she gives me is a smile, and in that halting tone, so completely unlike her.
I'll find a way out of this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Anyways, I should go. I'll see you later.
Where are you going?
Getting myself some food. Don't wait for me.
Isabella walks away before I can stop her, before I can remind her that I've brought food enough for the two of us. She quickly disappears down the stairwell, while I'm left standing in an empty hallway, holding 2 bags of takeout. One of them will go uneaten tonight. Just an innocent passing thought. One that I don't dwell much on as I head back to my room. I ignore all of it, in the same way I've assumed that I won't ever encounter that douche again. We skipped 2 days to Thursday. I think we'll wrap up here. Becca found Isabella going through several papers outside her apartment. When the former asked why she didn't come home the other night, the latter confessed that she saw the ghost once again. Before leaving, Isabella assured her friend that she'd find a way out of this mess. Yeah. I just find it funny that whatever generation is in power always just complains about the younger generation because they're just fed up with the change that that generation is going to need to require in order for society to move on. Well, we're probably halfway through Rebecca's story, so next time we will finish Rebecca's story. So, until then, we will resume maybe tomorrow, if I have time. If not, we'll definitely stream on Wednesday. Creepy lady, creepy lady. It's been fun. Perhaps we'll talk about advertising more next time. Anything but politics. Anything but politics.